Hey everyone, my name is Mariana, and I am the host of the Commitment to Growth podcast, as well as the founder of the resilience life coaching platform, Commitment to Growth. This is a personal growth-oriented space dedicated to helping ambitious young adults who want to develop long-lasting resilience in their personal, professional, and social lives. I coach on all things mindset development, reframing limiting thought patterns, habit building, vulnerability, and emotional freedom techniques, and more, all through evidence-based practice and lots of raw and honest conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and let's dive right in. How's it going, everybody? I hope you're doing well. If you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back to CTG, Commitment to Growth, the podcast. It is so lovely to be here today and to be here with you for a long overdue guest interview. Truthfully, I love my solo episodes. I love nothing more than sitting here and sharing my thoughts with you, and the responses that come after from so many of you that tell me that it's resonated with you, or that you found value in it, or that you have questions from what I said. That is at the core of what I do, but at an even deeper core, it is these conversations with the amazing people that I have had the privilege of connecting with, the privilege of building relationships with, and the privilege of learning from as I've gone through this journey on this platform. And this is one of those conversations that just truly reminded me of why I do what I do, because the guests that I have for you today and I just got into just the best flow state. It was so much fun. We chatted all things public speaking, community, getting in touch with ourselves, how the coincidental things in our life, lead us down the path that we were meant to walk, and therefore the path that we were required to walk to see who we were meant to become. And it was just so stimulating, and I'm so excited to bring it to you today. Before I do, a few announcements, however, two, really. One being that some of you may have seen on social media, I just finished and completed and achieved my life coaching certification from the Universal Coaching Institute. I am so excited for that. So with that being said, I am niching in resilience coaching, and I am now accepting inquiries for clients to work one-on-one with. Right now, that being on Zoom sessions, coaching one-on-one sessions. So if you are interested in delving into resilience coaching, if you have questions on what that entails, if you have questions about what that looks like, shoot me an email. You can find that in the show notes below, or you can also head right over to my website. It's www.commitmenttogrowth.com. Fill out the first call form. We'll hop on a call, 30-minute discovery call, and we'll chat. Get to know each other, get to know what you're looking for from coaching, understand what gaps you're looking to fill with a one-on-one mentor. And I'm excited because I think it's something different. I think I'm approaching the resilience coaching space in a different way. And yeah, that's that. I can't believe I'm saying that. Oh my goodness. Exciting things, big things. Announcement number 2 is that if you haven't already registered for the Commitment to Growth community on Circle, you should definitely go and do that. It is completely free. It is kind of looks like a Facebook group, but I think it's a little bit more convenient and easier to navigate. You can download the Circle app, sign on, claim a spot, because I will be hosting giveaways there and some webinars there in due time. So if you're interested in having a go at grabbing some prizes, potentially winning some free coaching sessions, not hinting at anything, head on over there. There's a link in my bio on Instagram at Commitment to Growth. You can find a link that will help you sign up there, and I will be posting on there regularly, coming very soon with exciting new things. So that is what's going on there. And without further ado, the wonderful guest that I have for you today, that I have for us today, because this conversation was equally a gift to me as it was to you, is Adrian Leckie. Funny story, before I dive into the incredible human being that is Adrian Leckie here. Adrian and I met serendipitously over a Facebook webinar around this time last year, August of 2022, because both of us had signed up for I think it was a week-long challenge with the Speaker Slam community. So for those of you that don't know, Speaker Slam is an organization here in Canada that hosts annual public speaking competitions with a certain theme. And they hosted this workshop last summer for people who were interested in learning how to get into the world of public speaking, how to start charging for public speaking, how to find your voice as a public speaker. And Adrian he was super active on the chats there, and he was cheering people on. And then I think I was randomly chosen from the huge panel of people that were tuning in live to say something to the hosts. And so my camera was on. I was talking to the organizer, one of the leads of Speaker Slam, in front of all these people that were tuning in online. And then him and I ended up connecting online, Adrian and I, on Instagram. And ever since, we've been following each other and cheering each other on. And what is incredible, and one of the primary reasons why I wanted to have Adrian on today, is because Adrian, a year later, went on to win second place at the Belonging themed Speaker Slam competition. And I shed a few tears when I saw the result, because he shows up so genuinely and he shows up so beautifully. And I admire the work that he's doing every single day. And he is just one of those human beings that has brought so much inspiration into my life, and I knew was going to bring a lot into yours as well. So hence the reunion that we are bringing you here today, full circle moment to a year later. I am so excited to bring this conversation. Let me tell you a little bit about Adrian as far as my wonderful opinion on him as well. Adrian is a speaker and community leader residing in Toronto, Ontario. Through his leadership in the Imani Black Academic Mentorship Program at the University of Toronto Scarborough, he empowers Black youth to access higher education, fostering their confidence and unleashing their potential. With a passion for equity, Adrian's mission revolves around guiding and inspiring young minds, showcasing the transformative power of mentorship and diversity as a youth empowerment speaker and coach. Say less. We dove into all the goods in this conversation. We talked about everything from his coincidental journey into acting and how that led him towards the path that he is on today as a speaker, as a community builder, as a leader. We talk about how sometimes the things that bring us fulfillment as far as providing people with things like laughter, entertainment, actually end up being a double-edged sword as far as how it fuels an insecurity. And we talk all about the importance of community, how it brings us strength, and why it is so necessary on our path to self-discovery and building resilience, which is obviously the bread and butter of my world and my professional world right now. So I am just so excited for you to listen to this wonderful conversation with this wonderful human. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And without further ado, here's the conversation. Before we do that, real quick, I do want to give a quick land acknowledgement and acknowledge that today I reside as an uninvited visitor and settler on the land of the Quaquitlam peoples that I get to call my home. I recently migrated over to this land from another land about 15 minutes away, and I am so proud to call this land my home, so grateful to call this land my home. I am thinking a lot about how I am taking my learnings from residing in Victoria, the land of the Wasanish peoples, a place where there is a lot more recognition around the importance of reconciliation, the importance of education around reconciliation, and how I want to show up with an anti-colonialist lens in my new community. And if you're somebody who's going through something similar, or you are finding yourself in a lot of different spaces at once, I encourage you to dive into that history and to dive into the people that resided there before you did, and why you need to do the education necessary to show up in the best way you can for that land and for the people that wish to claim their space in that land. Because so many of us are here due to the privileges that were afforded to us by colonialism, and it is our job to work to dismantle those barriers and to not see them as privileges, but more a learning opportunity and a calling to show up differently and in a way that is more conscious and compassionate and welcoming to the communities that need our support to reside effectively on these lands.
Adrian, how you doing? Welcome to the Commitment Growth Podcast.
Thank you. I'm in good spirits. I'm doing well. It's a lovely Saturday, and being able to get this day started here with you is phenomenal.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Afterwards, just kicking back and relaxing. So
nice, as the weekend should go in the summer.
Absolutely,
for sure. I'm so glad. Well, it is a joy to have you here. I'm excited to chat with you because you've had some pretty exciting stuff in your life happen recently that I want the audience to know about, and I want to know about more. So before we do that, do you want to tell us a little bit about who Adrian is, what you do, why you do what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Adrian Leckie. My professional role, I work at the University of Toronto Scarborough as the Imani program team lead. What that means is I oversee a Black academic mentorship program called Imani, where I support Black undergraduate students, providing tutoring and support for Black identifying middle school and high school students in the Scarborough area. So a lot of my role is just coordinating that program, connecting with, doing outreach, connecting with partners, and also doing some programming and developing curriculum. Outside of that, I also do some career coaching and getting into public speaking, which has been a really exciting stage of my life right now. And what got me into it? I think a lot of it has been just through self-reflection. It's almost like serving my younger self when it comes to like the roles that I'm doing currently, whether it be through Imani, where growing up, I always felt like I wanted to be able to have like a mentor who kind of gets the experiences I've gone through, but I didn't encounter anyone who I was able to do that with. So being able to take a role within this mentorship program, something was important to me because it overlaps the passion I have for community development, in addition to my passion with being able to connect with youth and also being able to do stuff in the university, because university was a huge growing point for me, felt a lot of pain, but a lot of great learning lessons as well. And when it comes to career coaching and public speaking, similar note. I was inspired by folks like Eric Thomas and Gary V and Lewis Howes, who really take a role and be able to put like a powerful voice out there. And they've gotten me out of a lot of situations that when I was at my lowest. So being able to work to do the same and really find like the impact of like the voice, both in my voice and being able to inspire others, but also being able to act as a catalyst for other people to be able to be inspired to or empowered to do what they're passionate about doing. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for that. You have so many gems in there that I want to touch on, but
Absolutely.
in the interest of time, let's start with you said university was a painful experience. What are you taking out of that time that you are like helping others with right now, if that makes sense?
Oh, I got you. I'm following. For me, it's been going into university, reflecting on my first to third year. It was a lot of suffering in silence where I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. I went into university with a major in English. And I wanted to get into the sciences. Sciences kicked my butt, and chemistry scarred me, and I did not want to catch any more of that smoke. But I bumped into psychology, which I really resonated with. And even though I found these courses that I really resonated with, I didn't do well academically. And a lot of that time, I just felt like there was something wrong with me because all my peers were like, oh, how did you do in this test? I did this. I got a 70. I got an 80. And I was there struggling with my like 60, high 50s. Like I did the best I could do, but what's the problem? And it wasn't until like my fourth year where I like asked for help and got like a learning strategist and more so got like a community behind me to be able to support me with my academics that I was able to do well. And also like the community building stuff I did too, really helped me stay grounded and helped me to be resilient. So taking those learning lessons and being able to apply them and let other undergraduates know who are in this stage of really wanting to figure out what they want to do. Some folks are like struggling. Some folks are in the wrong program. Being able to just have that space, let them know that it's okay. This is a common experience. and what can we do to give you more space to be able to have the conversations that you need to in order to either succeed or in order to get a better sense as to what your passions are, so you can make sure that your undergraduate and your journey is aligned with that. So that's been my biggest thing. And then also being able to provide that same space for like high school students who are going into university who have so many pressures to worry about, like pleasing their parents and all that. Being able to let them know you have a space to be able to talk about this stuff with someone as opposed to keeping it to yourself.
Are you a people pleaser, would you say?
You
Recovering
expose
people
me.
pleaser for him?
Oh my gosh. I am. I say recovering. I'm gonna give myself grace and say that I think I've learned about what are my triggers. But that started in like a young age for me. Like back when I grew up an only child. And one of the things I remember doing as a kid, because I always kind of seeked being able to be approved by my peers or be able to get like that circle. So I was usually like the class clown as well. I need to get my approval came from making people laugh. So what I used to do at home, Mary, I don't know if you know what VHS is? You know what a VHS is?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm not that far off. Come on.
Okay, I'm just checking. Maybe different generation.
You.
All right. I used to have these recordable VHSs that I'd pop in, and I used to like watch like comedy skits and things like that. I record it. I like memorize how people did their certain things. Like, okay, I want to apply that to the classroom and see how it hits with people. So at a young age, I was really working to tailor myself to fit the mold that would like please other people. And double-edged sword. I think on the one end, it was rough because it took a lot of time to dismantle and deconstruct all that. On the plus side, I found out like a passion for like speaking and acting through that and being able to kind of like embody characters and do those types of things. So double-edged sword, but it's really interesting that a lot of the core to where I am really started from wanting to get the attention and please people. So recovering people pleaser for sure.
Yeah. I only ask because you mentioned, and we'll get back to this, but you mentioned that you were reflecting on your first year, but it took you till your fourth year to seek help. And it's interesting how we'll get back to that, but it's interesting how even sometimes the things that we're just innately drawn to because they bring up some side of us that we resonate with and that we identify with like closely, end up sometimes becoming the very things that contribute to our pain, because we use them for, I don't want to say the wrong reasons because so many of those reasons are so out of our awareness, but it's hard to keep everything clean sometimes, and it sucks. But why do you think it took you till your fourth year to reach out?
That's a good question. You know what? Oh man, I think what it was I failed my first class in my third year, and also when I started to think about like what next steps look like for me, I was like, man, like either means a master's degree or things like that, and my grades just weren't cutting it. So I knew from that point, I knew I had to reach out to somebody to ask for help or ask for support, and thankfully found the right person to be able to connect, really understood what I was going through. But yeah, it was that. It was like reaching ground bottom for me was that. And then also I felt like in order to make up for my classes, I had to like take less classes. And then OSAP kept knocking on my door. They're like, you're not taking enough classes. We're going to take away some of your money if you don't keep up. So it was just like horrible wake-up call there that really pushed me, because I felt like I was kind of spiraling at that point.
What do you tell the students that you work with now who are like looking for help but don't look for it until they've hit their breaking point? Like, what is your advice to students who are like, but I don't need help yet, like I'm not at my bottom because so many of us don't ask for help until we get there, and sometimes it's too late at that point, right? So what do you tell people that you work with?
Oh wow, I encounter so many students like that.
We're getting there.
I think the biggest thing I let them know is you can't predict like the unpredictable in like your life. There are certain things that come up that are going to be outside of the norm, distract you, pull your attention as well. And also there are opportunities that come up as well. And it's all about being able to give yourself the space of like self-awareness to know, here are my triggers, here are the things, here are the environments that I thrive in and things I need. Here are the ways which it doesn't work for me. But it's all about also building like discipline and also building consistency in your schedule to be able to make sure that you're able to do what you need to do while also giving yourself that space and wiggle room. 'Cause I'm also a recovering procrastinator. No, that's a lie. I still procrastinate. I still
procrastinate too. I get it. I get it. It's a hard one.
It is. But I think the important thing is like, that it happens, but being able to make sure you're aware of when it happens, what your triggers are, and how make sure you're actively working towards improving yourself for it. Otherwise, it's easy to say, oh, I'll fix it next time, or when I have time, or maybe when I have need for it. And those are the moments where you feel it the most. Those moments where you get hit, whether it be with a bad grade or something happens in the family or something like that, where you feel overwhelmed, you feel drained, you feel exhausted, you experience burnout. And there's opportunity there was like, oh man, if I had the strategies to be able to work through it, maybe those moments and points would still happen, but you'd have the resources to be able to pick yourself up from it rather than seeking it when you're at your worst. So it's just being able to be prepared for it is the biggest thing I try to tell students.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's the gap that I feel like is so often missed, is it isn't about simply like the roadmap could come crashing down at any moment, but it's honing in on how are we fostering, and to young people, to whoever, right? It's how are we fostering an environment where we're providing the strategies to pull them out of those depths, because that is where so many people get lost, and so many people, I hate to say it, but we lose so many people. There's been you've mentioned a lot about triggers and self-awareness and stuff. What has been your journey into personal growth, and how have you started applying that to not only your personal life but your professional life as well?
My journey began again that it's through people pleasing, actually. My journey for self-development really began in my first year university, where I was really looking for like, how do I find friends, but also this feeling of, I don't know if I'm enough. I don't like this idea of like self-worth and going into spaces or to new environments. So I remember that summer, it was like I read into how do you make friends, and just like placing it on YouTube and reading books and things like that. I really prioritized my summer to do that, and then finding this whole realm of people talking about how to make yourself better. I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. So it was actively kind of diving into that. And then also, I think it's also being able to be incorporated with like my community center, because those guys like raised me growing up and giving me opportunities. And I think another aspect of my self-growth was being able to just try new things and make sure that I gave myself permission to kind of fall flat, look a little stupid, but learn from it. So it was like being able to find opportunities before university to sort of like tailor what my social skills were like. It was being in my community center and doing some part-time work there. And then my last piece was like getting into acting in drama. So in my third year, I had an opportunity to be in a theater play for African rendition of The Lion King. And the interesting aside with that one was I was like in this like study lounge, just doing my thing. And then this person came out to me like, hey, are you here for the auditions that we're holding over across in the boardroom? I was like, oh, no, I'm just doing my work. She's like, okay, I'm going to hand you this form. You're going to fill it out, and then you're going to come into audition in about 10 minutes. Okay, cool. And walked away. I looked at the form like, what? But at the time I've been interested in drama before. So I was like, okay, let me give it a shot. Walked in, did the audition. I love The Lion King. So I was like, I dabbled into it. And then I got an email a week later saying, yeah, we're giving you the lead role. I was like,
Shut up. Are you
damn.
Oh my
Cool.
God.
Yeah.
No
So
kidding.
from that point, I got really interested in like stage presence and improv and things like that. And I think that was also a huge catalyst for me in being able to be comfortable on my toes, be able to come up with things, be able to give myself the space to think about one, what my character would be like, but then also applying it to myself, being like, oh man, putting all this attention to these different aspects of this character, but who am I amongst all of this? And then from there, I got an opportunity to kind of learn about myself, and being on stage, I really learned like I really enjoy being able to entertain, be able to be on stage, be able to connect with other people in the community building that happens there as well. And that acts as a huge piece for my growth. So
Dang.
yeah, with all of that, how I apply it to what the work I do currently is just letting folks know to make sure you're being curious. Be curious about what are the things that really interest you, what are the things that you're passionate about, and also just really encouraging people to understand what story is unfolding in their life. So one thing I love saying, because I'm a huge artsy person, I'm a huge geek, and I love being able to, I love being able to think about like, what's the narrative that's going on right now in my story as like the main character in my life. And I always look back and see these reoccurring themes that come up, whether it be I acted a bit as a kid, I like the attention, I like being like the class clown and all that, and how it applies today of being like, oh, I like acting, I like speaking, and how am I applying that into what I do? And being able to just give people the space and being intentional about how I hold that space for people as well is what I really try to do. That, and then the last piece would be encouraging people to find their voice. I think it's like really important to be able to know like what your values are, reflect on those, and how are you applying it to the work that you're doing. For me, being in spaces where the people who are higher up than me and supervisors and things like that, early on in my career, it was really easy to kind of be silent and be complacent. But knowing the lens that I have within myself being a Black identifying male in the spaces where I don't see many of us, there's like this responsibility to make sure that I'm advocating and I'm voicing my observations and ensuring that I'm empowering my students and people I work with as well to ensure that they're doing the same, and that their voices really do have an impact. So I think those are a few learning lessons that I was able to apply.
Oh, I wish I'm snapping. I think that's what they do in the acting world, right? I don't know. I just do it. But that was so good. And I have so many gems to pull out of that. But let me wrap my head around what I want to say first here. Because I was beaming that entire story. That was so good. I think it's fantastic that, well, first of all, the coincidence that this lady came up to you and was like, yeah, I don't care what you say, like you're still getting the form, you're still coming in, right? Like, love that. And how it just rerouted, would you say, like the course of your life? Is that too extreme, or is that fairish?
I think that's fairish. I say that fairish. Because that is fairish because I think it's from that moment where, one, I was able to build community when it comes to acting, and there's a lot of opportunities that came up to me after that. Even to this day, the same person who approached me, I've been in 4 productions that she's done. Latest one being like last year. So that was that's a big game changer. And then also I was able to find a community, like that was a majority Black student production that unfolded there. And being able to see people who look like me within that space was something that was powerful. And I could say that was maybe
Mhm.
like the first time I experienced that. And from there, again, stories and narratives, seeing the spaces I build now with Black identifying undergraduates, being able to have that space within a
Yeah,
university and be able to create that space for other middle school and high school students. So, man, you
totally.
you nailed it. Not even fairish. That was a great point.
That
I
was
didn't even
fair.
realize that. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I hit the nail on the head. But that's so cool because you were saying how now you prioritize making people's voices feel heard. That is acting. Like that is what acting is. It's like honing in on somebody's performance and being like snapping too. See, I got it right. Letting yourself be absorbed by it. You mentioned creating safe spaces for people. Acting so is that it's letting yourself to not be judged whatever character you're taking on, right? I loved the parallels. And also I don't think it's talked about enough. I say this myself as also being a self-identifying woman of color, like the responsibility that comes with being in a position in the one like we are, whether you're a podcast host, whether you're a coach, whether you're a professional speaker, that like you're being a voice for so many people who don't feel safe enough to express themselves in spaces like that. And it's a very different kind of responsibility to I don't know, like being a sibling, or like, well, no, I would parallel it to what being a sibling, but
Mm.
I don't know, being like a boss or something. There's a certain kind of vulnerability to it where it's like I feel scared up here too because of who I am, but I want to invite you to share this fear and stand in the courage of it at the same time, if that makes sense. So I
Yeah.
just hope you know like the huge part that you're playing in that for so many people, I'm sure, because it's a in a predominantly white society, it's not easy to find those spaces, especially as an actor. So
Yeah. Well,
mhm,
thank you. What you
of
said
course.
there, about having like the courage to be able to take that space. It reminds me of
Mhm,
something of a good friend of mine, Brian Fuller said. He
mhm,
said that many times when you're coming up on stage, you never know who exactly needs to hear your voice. There could be
mhm.
one person, whether it be someone who may not identify or someone who does, who's just been waiting for your voice and your message to go out there as
Yeah.
well. So knowing that responsibility to not make sure that you don't silence that one thing that may be pivotal to someone who's like
Mhm.
sharing that space for you. So
Oh my gosh, it's huge, and it's
yeah,
hard, right, to share yourself vulnerably like that.
yeah.
But here we are. We're doing it. We're taking it one step at a time. So
Aaron, can I throw a question at you?
please go for it. This
Okay.
doesn't happen often on the podcast.
Oh, look at me mixing things up.
Here we go.
I wonder because when it comes to space that you have in your podcast, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to whether it be your solo episodes where you're being vulnerable or when you open space
Mhm.
for other people too. Like, what would you say is your how do you keep yourself brave or creating even let's go with like brave spaces?
Ooh,
How do you be like a facilitator of brave spaces and keep yourself vulnerable? Like what are the things that you do?
that's a fantastic question. I wasn't expecting that. Um, the first thing that comes to mind is that I always remember that my own bravery is the result of somebody else's bravery, if that makes sense. Like I have found the courage to say some of the things that I say on my platform because I've seen people like Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, Roddy Devlukia, his wife, Lewis House, all of the big names and people smaller, quote unquote, in the industry than them have the vulnerability to share their stories.
Yeah.
So I remind myself that if I'm pouring that energy out into the world, then somebody else is going to find the courage to pick it up and roll with it too, you know? So it's not easy, but also that's how you resonate with people. That's how people um, build relationship to you, even if it's indirect through just hearing your episodes. Like they find resonance in your authenticity because it's a lot
Mm.
easier to just be like, do these 5 things and you'll be happy. You know, it's like, no, like here's my story and here's how I rolled with it to get to where I am now. And if it helps you, fantastic. And if it doesn't, then thank you for being here. You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ah, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Thank you.
I think it really shows even if we may know it or not, like the impact that we're able to have with the people who were
Mm-hmm.
listening to us and the low-key legacy that you're building just through being able to share your voice as well, as bravely as you have been. So
thank you.
That's incredible.
Thank you for firing that at me. That was fun. right back at you too. Like we're feeding off each other in the space. So I have two questions. One's a quick fire, and one's a more elaborated one from the stuff you were mentioning.
Right.
You said the summer that you got into personal growth, you were looking into how to make friends and stuff. Did you read How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie? Was that one of your reads that summer? Or
it wasn't a read for that summer, but I did read it. I think maybe when I got a role as a I was an outreach intern for one of the student spaces. And one of the main responsibilities in that role is being able to go around, talk to people, tell them about the services that we have. And I was sitting on that Dale Carnegie book for the longest time. So I got the audiobook, dived into it, absolutely loved it. I wish I listened to it sooner, but yes, I have listened to it.
Tell me about it. No, it's a fantastic book. I was like, he must have read it at some point. Two people who are concerned about making friends, it's like a manual.
Yes.
Right. My second and more elaborated question, arguably, is you mentioned that, part of your struggle and part of the driving force that got you into personal growth was trying to find self-worth somehow, and then you got into acting, right? I hear from a lot of people who are actors, have been actors, that acting was kind of that medium for them because they got to express parts of themselves that they didn't think that would have otherwise been accepted, or they got to discover parts of themselves that they didn't know they wanted to have or to express to others through a character or something. So would you say that acting was a medium for that for you as well? Or what role did that play in your personal growth journey?
Yeah, I think the testimonies that you've heard are very along the lines of like my experiences too. I think for the one role I was mentioning before with the Lion King rendition, I think the biggest thing there I was able to take away was being able to be vulnerable. Like during that role, I had to like be upset. It was very along the lines of the Lion King narrative. So like father dies, you're kind of going over to find yourself within afterwards.
Hakuna
And so
Matata, yeah.
Exactly. And I think in that space to be able to explore like what it would feel like to lose someone who's like so important to you, and being able to express that was something that I had to get used to, but also tap into experiences I've had before. Like within that role, within that time, I think before that, like my grandfather passed away. And that was like the biggest passing that's happened in my life at that moment. So I was like kind of tapping into trying to figure out like how I was feeling. Also tapping into how my mom was feeling at that time, because she was crushed. And being able to tap into that moment, and it's also thinking about how I felt and seeing her, I was able to sort of tap into that sort of sadness. But not only to bring it up, but also reflect on that feeling. What are the things that are coming up in my mind at that time, and how am I embodying that? How's my body sort of representing that too? So I was really able to think about those moments, or moments in my life where I could feed on like, where are moments where I felt confident, happy, sad, mad. And it really acted as a great reflective practice for me that I didn't realize at the time. I think it took me years to really figure out what I was doing, but it just felt right because I was used to it, again, with the people pleasing, watching TV, embodying particular characters. I was like, okay, I've seen this person do this and there. How can I figure out how to do that for myself? And I think that's really sort of supported me in like being a very empathetic person as well, especially when it comes to the role I have professionally too. So yeah, I've definitely been able to explore myself a lot and give myself the space to reflect outside of acting.
Yeah. Did that moment change how you approach vulnerability now? Like, did you feel different after the performance? Can you recall?
Yeah, I did, because the other part of that performance I wasn't used to was at the time they're like, okay, we're gonna have like some folks have to be shirtless within this
Okay.
presentation. I was like,
Yeah.
I am a stick. How am I going to be exposing myself around these like buff people? So that was a whole other layer of vulnerability too. Just being there. It's like, I'm gonna have to show my frail self to the world.
Yeah.
That other layer of vulnerability too. I think I was able to say, wow, being able to do that and sort of encapsulate some of these pieces of a character, like I'm able to apply this outside of it. And if anytime I feel kind of insecure about that vulnerability, I just remember sometimes like, man, I was just shirtless, looking very lanky at one point in my life, into a stage of how many people in the audience. What else? I can do anything.
No. I love that. And pardon me for laughing. I should not be laughing, but like,
please do. Yeah. It's okay.
It's just like how many of us have those experiences where we're just like, I don't square up. Like, I don't square up. And then we end up being the needle in the haystack in a situation like that, you know? Like, it's important to remember that people indirectly recognize the courage that you have, even when you feel like you're doing something stupid.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, totally. Oh, I love that. And it's always hearing stories of people who have dabbled in things that they didn't think they'd dabble in, or opportunities that came their way that they were like, oh, like I'll give it a shot, and then it ended up changing the course of their life. I eat that up. So this is so fun for me. Do you still act? You're still involved in that and everything?
I am. I feel like in my mind, I'm like, anytime the same person who reached out to me the first time, the same person I've been following, anytime she has, and her name is Vanessa Jeff, check her out. She's amazing. Anytime she's doing a production for her theater company, Quay2 Productions, I'm like, I'm going to audition. Outside of that, I'm not actively seeking, but I just know anytime it comes to her, I'm like, I'm going to make sure I make the space to make something happen there.
Interesting.
So,
okay. What role does it play in your life now as far as self-discovery, self-exploration, self-expression? Like, how has it changed from when you first started?
Ooh. How has it changed?
He wasn't ready for this one, folks.
I wasn't. I really wasn't.
It's okay. You're good.
Okay. No, I could answer them. You fascinated me with this question. Okay. I think there's two things. One, I think I find like opportunities to act as, I always find as a growing opportunity, because I'm always figuring out how to push myself, how I embody particular characters, how we work on building rapport with another person, how to be able to collaborate. I think that's the biggest thing, because for me, especially being an only child, I'm really used to being able to do something by myself and rely on myself to do the thing, for better or for worse. But when you're on a stage with other people, it's really about collaborating. You can't be doing your own solo thing when you're really working on building on with another person. So I think that has got me into the mind frame of being able to ensure that I'm being more collaborative. And I'm able to take that and move it into, apply it to work, career, etc. And the other thing I had was, I had it. Reading and also I think being on stage as well, it just gives me an opportunity to just step outside of my comfort zone every time. As much as I do it, it's still a lot of not anxiety, but it still takes a lot of courage to still step up there, knowing, oh man, I wonder what audiences are going to think. Am I going to remember all my lines and all that? But just being able to take that regular practice to be able to go on stage, just have faith in myself, faith in the cast as well, that everything's going to go well. It's something that I really value, because I apply that too, especially when it comes to being on stage and like doing public speaking. It requires the same practices and principles of ensuring I'm ready, being sure I'm grounded, and knowing what either my character's ambitions are, or my own ambitions are, and being grounded in that moving forward.
Totally.
Yeah. And then the last piece I'll say is, I think through acting, I've learned like my pre-show ritual is the same for acting that I've learned, that I apply for public speaking, that I apply for interviews. I always just do this huge shakeout anytime I do anytime I'm doing something big, and I have my go-to song and I just shake it out. Either I have to go into like a small bathroom stall to do it, I'm shaking myself out. Otherwise, it feels weird without it. Just getting all the jitters out. So
Is it "Shake It Off" by Taylor Swift?
You know what? I've learned that song extensively for karaoke. It is not "Shake It Off" though. It's really, what is it? It's a Childish Gambino song that I don't feel like anyone would really know, but
okay.
Childish Gambino. It's off of his. I remember the name of the album because all of them were like different like timestamps.
Right. Yes.
But a Childish Gambino song. That's
cool. I love that. I was kidding about the Taylor Swift song, by the way, but I just thought it was funny. That's so cool. It's always so cool to me to see that like the same fundamentals are at the core of like any big thing we do, whether it's a public speaking venture or acting or a job interview or you don't know, you're playing guitar for the first time or something. Like it always comes down to, do you have trust in yourself? Are you grounded? Do you have faith that you can do this? Like those I feel like those are the fundamentals that are so often missed. We're so much more focused on the external. Like, do you have your lines memorized? Are you dressed properly? Do you look proper? And it's like that all is secondary to, and will come naturally if you have the first like internal based pieces down, you know, because you were mentioning self-trust and grounding, and I was like, it really, it always comes back to the same thing, you know. Yeah, I love it. I'll ask you one more question, then we'll get into the public speaking stuff because I definitely want to get into it. But community has been a huge theme of this conversation and of your development and in your journey towards who you are now. Tell me about the role that has played in your life in different spaces and why it's so important to what you do now.
Community's been an ongoing role of my life from when I was like a kid. So I think in order to speak on it, I have to sort of position where it's coming from. And so I grew up in Crescent Town. It's a small, high-risk like neighborhood near, actually, you don't even know Toronto, but it's somewhere in Toronto on the East End. Cool. And growing up an only child, I was always looking for like friends and folks to connect with. So my mom would always send me to our local recreation center. And it's from there where the thing that really stood out to me, whether it be doing summer camps or soccer programs, were seeing these folks who seem like adults at the time, but in retrospect are really like early 20s folks who were there creating spaces for us as kids to just connect, build friendships. I've had so many friendships come up from being in that one space. Nice. And then that same community was responsible for giving me my first job as a camp counselor, and they gave me my first cool part-time job as a drama teacher because I said, hey, you know, I could do drama stuff. Is there a need for that? They're like, oh, we'll make a drama program. You can make the curriculum and just we'll tailor it for the kids. I did a public speaking program. I did a journalism program. It was that idea of having this central space where you could come, be yourself, and then have folks be able to find roles or opportunities for you to be able to support other people in your community. So being able to grow up with that pedagogy and with that framework, it's always been embedded in me of like, how am I able to apply this to the opportunities I have or the work I do? So, and I can't imagine myself doing any work without it being embedded in community as my main piece, because at the end of the day, we're all looking to connect. I think that's one thing that really gives us life to be able to learn about other people's stories, being able to collaborate, to be able to work with each other. It gives us purpose. And so going into university, community is what really built resilience for me, and being in a student council, doing the acting thing, and building those communities there led me to have opportunities to do part-time work with like general student life folks, what led me to be in the role I'm in currently. So it's all being connected and integrated in community. So being able to, within my role, share once to be able to give people that same space to be themselves and give them permission to be able to explore different passions that they have within the role of connecting and mentoring other people. It's been so impactful and so been so powerful to see. So I've really been grounded by being able to be in other community spaces that done amazing work and be able to allow me to know exactly what community looks like, so I could apply that and show the benefits for other people who I work with as well.
Oh, I love that. You mentioned how it had given you resilience, and we miss that so much, like as the importance of not just community, but just the sole purpose of being grounded with others, right? Like it's something that we seek again when and only if we hit rock bottom, because I feel that we live in a space in a society that is very individualistic, like preaches do things yourself, only when and only if you can do things by yourself for yourself, then you are solid, right? And then everybody's wondering why we have like these huge attachment issues and like this huge like nationwide loneliness. And it kills me to see, because I'm such an extrovert, right? Like I said this on here so many times, like I would rather you know, I don't care if I like don't ever make six figures or the podcast doesn't ever blow up. Like I would rather spend a Saturday morning doing something like this or going and getting coffee with a friend than being so focused on, am I at six figures yet? Am I at seven figures yet? Or am I, am I hitting my career goals? Like that's all important to me, but I know that will only ever be secondary, because I would never want to get to a place in social, societal, professional ranking that I'm like, wow, I sacrificed so much that I could have just spent my time doing. Was it worth it to get to this point? So I feel very passionate about that stuff, and I love hearing about when people are putting that into their professional lives, into their personal lives, because it's so, we don't acknowledge the importance of it enough, and consistently being absorbed in it too. Alone time is important and self-reflection time is important, but like seek it more often than you need it, more often than you think. So seek it.
I felt that the most during the pandemic, because prior to the pandemic, I was like, oh man, I really like my alone time. Again, being the only child, I've just been used to it. But man, when like in that instance, like community was almost just like stripped away from everyone for a certain chunk of time. I think similar to what you're mentioning about like the value of where money and status lies in some of our values and what we hold dear to us. Connection was something that really, again, resilience, that it's that connection that really got me through a lot of dark places at that time. So you've nailed it.
We need it. Prescribe it. I'm not a doctor, but I'm prescribing everybody that's listening some community time.
Yes.
Thank you for that wonderful conversation. Public speaking. I am speaking to the second place winner of the Speaker Slam Becoming competition. Everybody, he was humble and didn't mention it at the beginning of this chat, but I'm saying it for you, and you will be saying it more. So tell us, how was it? How was getting up on the stage? I've only seen chunks of your speech, but it was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
You said some incredible things that really, really landed. So tell us about signing up for it. What got you to do it? How was it being on the stage, winning second place? All of it.
Absolutely. It was an incredible experience. What brought me to performing really started with my passion for wanting to get into public speaking more intentionally. And so from last year, I was kind of looking into, no, actually not last year, since the pandemic, actually, I've been following Speaker Slam for a bit. And from there, I entered my first competition there. I can't remember what the theme was, But I did a speech talking about masculinity,
Mm-hmm.
being able to break down masculinity or find more ways to broadcast positive masculinity is something that's been as a passion project of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I did my first speech there talking about ways in which I was brought up in traditional masculine sort of trait standards
Yeah.
and what my journey was to kind of break down and dismantle that. And it was a really great experience I had, one being able to reflect and think about the message think about my journey and also find ways in which I could express that to others and also share and be able
Mm-hmm.
to share that with my peers is something that was very vulnerable to do, but very powerful with the conversations that came up. And it was
Mm-hmm.
from there that I was actually able to connect with this organization, Next Gen Men, to be able to do some like youth-based work with them
Mm-hmm.
for about a year and a half. So in seeing the impact of that space, that was done virtually, I had this
Okay.
interest to be able to kind of hone my speaking skills and also be able to do it on the stage. So in reaching out to Speaker Slam, they had this like professional branding or personal branding program that they did.
Where
That I
you and I met, correct? This is like the Facebook.
exactly.
Yes.
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 And so from there, I kind of learned a bit about the community. I wanted to learn more. So connecting with them, I signed up for another program. And
Mm-hmm.
in signing up for it, they mentioned that they have their Speaker Slam happening this year. They had a couple of themes going on and invited me to be able to speak on one of
Mm-hmm.
them. And so I chose belonging because that one really resonated with the work that I do and also when it
Mm-hmm.
came to my own story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that experience itself was wonderful to be able to think about what exactly was the message I wanted to share. And also, what is the thing I felt I needed the space to be able to express, one for my healing and also will be beneficial for
Mm.
others too.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, the journey towards making the speech was challenging actually, because I think in my head I
Mm-hmm.
had wanted to think of what are the different stories that really led me to being who I am currently and where does community and belonging fit with all of them. So prior to, I think a week before, I had maybe about 4 potential angles I could go for. And the one I was most worried about was the one I ended up moving forward with, because knowing that myself
Mm-hmm.
being Black identifying male as well, I didn't know how many people in the audience would be able to resonate with my story or with my message. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Sunday before, I was talking to my mom. I was like, I have these 2 angles. One, I think it would be very fun, really engaging, sort of like conversation and speech. But I feel like it
Yeah.
doesn't really resonate with where I'm at in this stage of my life. And the other one, I feel like really resonates with my message, but I don't know how people will receive it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying, you know what, if you feel like in your gut that you have this message you want to share, then regardless what people say, you need to share it. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, okay, let's just go be courageous and go
Here
all
we
in.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So within the speech Reader's Digest, I was talking a bit about my experiences with discrimination and being stopped by the
Mm-hmm.
police for they thought I was a participant in a robbery that happened in a nearby convenience store,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of perceived weight I felt when it came to race at that moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of talked about my journey of being able to dismantle some of those pieces and build awareness to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So going on stage and being able to share that story was something that really impacted me, because I almost felt like I was able to say the words that my younger self needed at that time to know how exactly to navigate the situation and also know that I don't have to take it on alone. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was a powerful moment for me. And
Yeah.
then winning second place was, regardless of where I placed, I knew from walking off that stage, I knew that I did what I needed to do.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and I said the message I needed to share, and I said it how I imagined saying it. And
Mm-hmm.
it was humbling. It was humbling to be able to be up there and win. And I'm really
Yeah.
excited to go on to the next stage and think about what is the next message I'm looking to share. But it also grew a lot because there are a lot of amazing speakers there too. And so being able to share a space with some of the folks that were there, it was mind blowing.
Oh man, yeah.
Very humbling experience. Yeah. And then the last thing I'll share, because the one thing that really has been grounding me for the past couple of years is being able to my visions and thinking about what my goal is for the year. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but on my phone, I have like this vision board that I have of what would be happening for the year for me. And the one thing that really got me a bit emotional afterwards, because sometimes I have my screen, I don't really think about it, right? Maybe it's just like implicit, or subliminal. But I saw Eric Thomas at the right corner here. I was like, I nailed it. I did what I set out to do, of being like a speaker in a space, and I want to be able to think about how I could incorporate that moving forward. So
my gosh, those are the coolest moments. I also eat that up. People are like, I looked at my vision board and forgot that it was there, or I finally got to check it off after so many years. Like, I'm so glad that you got to live that, and that you got to have that moment afterwards where you were like, man, like I did this through my effort, through my vulnerability, through my, like, it came from you. It came from your choice and your courage, because you were mentioning that, you ended up going with the thing that scared you the most, as far as the topic, as far as what you want to talk about, the approach that you want to take. And I always think that those are the things that scare us the most often, are the things that we should be doing, because like there's healing in doing the things that you don't think you can do, or proving yourself wrong, frankly, right? And I'm so glad that you got to have that experience, and that you got to use it for you too, because I loved that you said that you used it as your own space to heal, and to make your younger self proud, and to like be able to hold that space for others and for yourself too, right? Like, I think we forget that the things that we do are also for ourselves, as much as we might feel a responsibility to do it for others and support others. Like, we are healing ourselves in those spaces too. So I'm so glad, and congratulations, because that is huge. That is huge.
Thank you so much.
I remember when we were in that workshop, like last year maybe, and you were like on the Facebook chat, and it was like all of us were like, oh, I've never done public speaking, but like I want to. And then a year later, you're like on the stage and winning second place. That's huge.
Wow. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. What the heck? Life works in funny ways, hey?
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, Adrian, thank you. This has been incredible, and you're an incredible human being, and I'm just very honored that we got to have this chat, and that you were coping with all the questions I was throwing your way, because I always say these are really conversational, and then I just end up like throwing question after question at people. So I appreciate your willingness and your vulnerability. Absolutely. If you've listened to the episode, to the podcast in the past, you know that you are the victim of the 3-question rapid fire at the end of the episode.
Ready.
He's ready. Okay. So the first 2 are uniform across every participant, but then the last one is unique to every participant. So are you ready?
I think so. I thought I was ready. I don't know. Well, I'll take it.
And then I gave the instructions, and he was like, no, that's fair. Okay. Your first question is, what song is currently stuck in your head?
Ooh, right now, what song stuck? Oh, I wrapped up watching Barbie last week. So right now, Barbie World by Nicki Minaj, and I think is it Ice Spice? No, is Ice Spice?
Yes,
it is Ice Spice. Yes. Okay, yeah, that's one's currently in my head.
I was admittedly listening to that on repeat yesterday too, because it came on my Apple Music suggestions, and I was like, this is a mood. This is the theme for this week.
It is.
I love it. Thank you. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite quote?
I'm quite a spiritual person. So
Love.
I will do a Bible verse that I like.
Ooh.
And it is Joshua 1, verse 9. I can have it on my phone.
Nice.
It is, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So I kind of stay grounded with that, knowing, again, any big moments or big obstacles, knowing that regardless, just be strong and be courageous, because it's higher power looking out for me.
Yes, exactly. Preach. A reminder we all need once in a while, honestly, when we're feeling that loneliness. I get it. I get it.
Yes.
All right. Your final question, unique to you and this episode, is what is something that you know now about self-expression that you didn't know in your first year or as a younger version of yourself?
I learned that self-expression at its purest, most amazing form isn't done to have people like you, but being able to express yourself authentically, and the people who are meant to be in your life will gravitate towards that message.
Oh, can you say that again?
I came from the spirit. I don't know. Let me try. Let me try.
Spirit, come through again.
Yes,
please, for the listeners.
Yeah. So yeah, self-expression is not about having people like you or being able to please other people, but like self-expression in its truest, most amazing, pure form is being able to be yourself unapologetically and having the right people resonate with that message.
And that's on being a recovering people pleaser.
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you Spirit, for coming through for us. That was amazing. And this was amazing. You're amazing. Thank you for this whole conversation. I am so excited to share with people. I'm sure that people took as much away from it as I did. Where can people find you after this?
You could find me on Instagram at my full name, not full name, but my name. So that's Adrian Leckie, ADrianLeckie. And you also find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there as well, under the same name. And look out in the next few months, looking to make a podcast as well called Shades of Success. So you can look out for that as well on my Instagram. So stay posted.
Nice. You got your #1 subscriber right here. I will absolutely be looking out for it. And he posts good throwback photos on LinkedIn. I can vouch for that. I saw those undergrad pictures the other day. So
thank
you're
you.
in for some quality content if you do hit a follow on LinkedIn. Adrian, thank you. This was awesome. And I just so much praise for you. You're amazing. Thank you again.
I appreciate you. And thank you. And thank you for all your amazing work. Killing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Commitment to Growth podcast today, everybody. I hope that conversation found you well and that it touched your soul as much as it touched mine. I felt so privileged to bring you Adrian's presence today, and remember to keep in touch with him. All his social media information is in the show notes, so you can go there to find out how to connect with him. If you liked this episode, please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, send it to one of your friends who you think might find it helpful, and don't forget to keep connecting with me online so that you can keep up to date with the most recent episodes, most recent campaigns that are going on. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Commitment to Growth. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching with me, please shoot me an email. It is commitmenttogrowthpod@gmail.com, or you can find my information and first call forms and schedule a discovery call on my website. It is www.commitmenttogrowth.com. And I think that's everything I have for you today. Don't be a stranger. Please reach out on social media. Let me know what content you want to see more from me, what guests you would like to have me discuss with, what topics you want to hear from me more on the show, because I am here to pour out from my heart based on what you think you need to succeed as a coach, and also just as somebody who is super, super motivated and inspired by personal growth. So that is on that. Thank you for being here today and for choosing Commitment to Growth as your daily source of personal growth and development. And I will see you in the next episode.